Footballtribeug channel. Robert Kesakos is your usual suspect. Welcome back to yet another live broadcast on your favorite football updates channel. It's a pleasure to be back this beautiful Saturday night or / evening, depending on where you're joining us from. It's a pleasure to be back, and we will be, peeling through some of the results that have come through today from the Premier League and beyond. As we speak, Barcelona are a goal down against Levante. That game is underway between Barcelona and Levante, and we are about 20 minutes into that game, and it's ongoing on that side in the Spanish La Liga. Then also Algeria, Sudan, that one is in 2 penalties. Uganda were knocked out of the African Nations Championships after losing to Senegal, the defending champions, by a goal to nil. So yeah, that's also, that one also did happen earlier on. It's very, very unfortunate that Uganda lost, but it is what it is. It is what it is. We won't dwell so much on our losses. We'd rather try to focus on what our positives may have been throughout the course of the day. But I hope every single one of you is good. Thank you so much for those that were part of our morning broadcast. Thank you so much for making it worthwhile. You are the MVPs of our YouTube channel. So thank you so much. So I mean, a lot has happened today. A lot has happened today, but we will focus on what I think matters the most, and we will revolve our conversation around that. Anyways, allow me to have our audios tested just to make sure everything does check out before we get into the depth of today's evening's conversation. For some of you, or for okay, looks like our audios are checking out well. Just need to confirm. Yesterday I think we had the first start. We had started a couple of minutes in before we had tested the audios, and then we did discover that somehow the audio was off. So it's sort of that one routine that we get to have to do to make sure we do not get that, to make sure we are without audio on the broadcast. So special shout outs to every single one of you that was part of the morning broadcast. My sincere pleasure to you all. I mean, thank you so much for the love and support. I do not take that for granted. So earlier on today, we did have we did kick off the day with Manchester City facing defeat at the hands of Tottenham Hotspurs, a very, very disciplined Tottenham Hotspurs, a very defensively solid Tottenham Hotspurs, I must say, because I mean, goals from Brennan Johnson and João Paulinho were the ones that helped Tottenham Hotspurs close to victory. I don't know, it's been a bit cold, but now it's turning out to be a bit hot. So allow me to take off this hoodie as we continue to the broadcast. So a beautiful game of football there. Man City dominated the first opening, I think the opening 25-30 minutes of the game, but they did not create much out of it. They were a bit cold in the final third, I must be honest. And Tottenham Hotspurs capitalized on their chances. The other side, Brennan Johnson off the mark with Richarlison providing the assist for that goal for Brennan Johnson. And, Tottenham went into that lead very, very in beautiful style. And then, of course, again, Manchester City were punished for their own mistakes. Again, because while Richarlison provided the assist for the first game, all the 2 goals they did concede, you could easily blame them on the goalkeeper, James Trafford, who, this thing about playing from out of the back. Yes, I understand goalkeepers must do it, but there's certain risks you ought not to take, especially for that second goal that João Paulinho, scores. You're playing the ball into your teammate who is already being pressed, instead of trying to go for the long pass. And I know for all ball playing keepers, they've taken certain risks. They've burnt their fingers before, and sometimes it's paid off, sometimes it hasn't. But it was just too horrible a performance from James Trafford today. It was just not good enough performance. in regards to Tottenham Hotspur, they really defended well. They were well drilled. When you see how eager they get into set pieces, it tells you how Thomas Frank is really drilling them into that path, into that direction, to go for that. So overall, they had 5 shots on target compared to Manchester City's 4. Off target were 5 compared to Man City's 3. Vicario did not have really much to do in that game, if I'm being honest. Yes, Manchester City dominated possession, as you would expect, 61 to 39, but it did not bear much fruit. They had 7 corners compared to Tottenham's 2, but it didn't offer much, But Erling Haaland missed a header from close range. The flight of the ball was a little high, so when he got onto it, I just braced it over the bar, and it did not help their chances. So that was one of the cases, really. Then also in the other fixture, we got that one wrong in terms of our predictions. High Fried Chicken, good to have you back on the broadcast. Kindly like the broadcast, but it's good to have you back once again. So in terms of our own predictions, we had predicted a 2-2 all draw, but Tottenham Hotspur won this one. But for those of you that were part of the preview, you do remember that me mentioning that if I had been pressed on who must win that game or who I expected to win that game, it was Tottenham Hotspur all day long. Then FC Bournemouth managed to beat up against Wolverhampton Wanderers by a goal to nil. This one, our prediction was a 2-1 victory for FC Bournemouth. Marcus Tavernier did score the solo goal that won the game for Bournemouth on the day. What is your favorite football player? My favorite football player at the moment is the same Max Dorman, that Arsenal young kid. He looks very impressive. But yeah, Wolverhampton Wanderers finished the game with a manless after, I think, what's his name? Totti Gomez was given a red card in that game. So it really did not help their efforts as they lost for the second time this season on match day 2. But Fried Chicken, I hope that answers your question. But there's a number of favorite players for me, depending on, in different teams, I tend to have different players. For example, if I go to Bayern Munich, I really love Jamal Musiala. I love Michael Olise, unless you're meaning my favorite player of all time, because that one is entirely different. If you take me to Barcelona, Lamine Yamal is very exciting. Pedri in that midfield. When you take me to Real Madrid, I do support Real Madrid, so it's only fair that I have favorite players in there. So when you take me to Arsenal, then it's more than one. In Manchester United, the players I do appreciate, given that talent and things like that. So it sort of varies. I do not think I have a constant favorite player. Like overall, it has everything to do with different teams and what kind of players they do have. That's what gets me tick. And then Brentford managed to register a win. For this one, we had, my prediction had been a 2-1 loss for them against Aston Villa. That they had a goal cancelled out that had been scored in the 44th minute by Damsgaard, but Dango Ouattara was off the mark on his debut with Brentford, who scored the goal that turned out to be the match winner for Brentford there, as the one that came by a goal to nil. Then also Burnley did beat up against Sunderland by 2-0. Our prediction had been a draw, a 1-1 draw between these two sides, but looks like it was totally very different between what we expected and what actually transpired. Lyle Foster had scored, but that goal was cancelled out in the 18th minute, and it ended goalless by halftime. And then Colin and Anthony were now the goal scorer for Burnley. Excuse me. Yes, for Burnley, that's Josh Colin had Jadon Anthony providing the assist for him, and then that's in the second half, and then goal scorer turned provider to score the second goal. What do I mean by that? That Colin scored the first goal, Joshua Anthony provided the assist, and then he scored Burnley's second goal, while Colin was providing the assist. So beautiful game out there. And then quickly, Arsenal goes to a 5-0 victory against against Leeds United. That was the late kickoff for Saturday. And as we speak, Barcelona, like I said, are down by goal to nil against Levante in the Spanish La Liga. Atletico Madrid have been forced into a 1-1 draw against Elche. Again, they only have 1 point in the opening 2 fixtures, and is getting a lot of stick on the online football, trends and forums, because I was checking my X feed, and Diego Simeone was one of those names that were trending throughout this evening. So really, things are happening. Things are happening. Really, things are happening. Just a second, trying to find some of some of those comments. Let me see if I can find any. But Diego Simeone is having his name dragged in the mud, really, for so far horrendous performances. Remember, they lost on the opening day. For example, somebody called Senor said, Atletico Madrid have to be the most unambitious club in football right now for a club their size. They are happy keeping Diego Simeone and making him the highest paid coach in world football because he has won them the Europa League title and took them to a Champions League final over a decade ago. Despite spending more money than most big clubs in Europe, they are okay with his poor performance as long as he qualifies for UEFA Champions League and trash talks Real Madrid. Even Tottenham, who aren't as big as them, have higher standards than those clowns. They sacked Jose Mourinho right before a final and recently sacked Ange Postecoglou, who just won them at the Europa League, because they were not happy with their performances. He continues to say that Real Madrid just parted ways with Carlo Ancelotti due to the team's poor performance, despite him just winning the Champions League a season before and everything that he has done for them. Yet Atletico are still keeping Simeone because he won them a cup over a decade ago. Last mile dash off this dash. The ones that I skipped were of unworthy language for us anyway. But Soloth did score while me scored the other goal for Elche as it finished in a 1-1 draw between those two La Liga sides. Then quickly, Ebere Eze was unveiled today. Ebere Eze was unveiled today at Arsenal at the Emirates Stadium before the kickoff of that Leeds United game. I mean, I do not think I've seen more magical scenes at the unveiling of an Arsenal player. Now, of course, he got the advantage that it was match day and he was being unveiled and all the home crowd was available. But that notwithstanding, the kind of support, the kind of applause, the standing ovation that he received as he returned to the Emirates Stadium was simply magical. I've seen clips of him, going through his media duties or, his first day at Arsenal. And I mean, the smile on his face, he literally just could not believe it. They have that sort of medium room where that has an Arsenal badge in the background where they normally take a new player's photos. He was in that space, and I think he looked at some of his family members while he turned his shirt to show the shirt number 10, and that smile, just purity. Literally, he himself couldn't believe it. Apparently, Ebere Eze called Mikel Arteta on Wednesday to inquire whether Arsenal are going to come in for him or he should go elsewhere. I mean, that's how badly he wanted this to happen. I mean, it does complete a very, very beautiful story. Atletico at Arsenal at the age of 13 and returns as a man. He was let go as a kid and he returns as a complete man at the age of 27. Coming in from Crystal Palace for £60 million plus an additional £7.5 million in expected add-ons. So, I mean, he was just delighted. I mean, when you watch those clips of him walking into the Emirates Stadium, first of all, he's in disbelief. At some point, I think it was going to get emotional for him, but he quickly realized how beautiful it is that he decided to enjoy it. You could see he smiled. He smiled sheepishly. And then as he walked back in the tunnel, there's a point where he bends his head to look into the ground, and he signals something like this. So, I mean, that all, tells you how he is really, really delighted to be back to play for his childhood club. It's a dream come true for him. It's not every day. I do not think I've seen a player that happy for a first day at a club. I mean, he absolute dream, really. Chucky is not a De Bruyne. He should not be playing for City. Timan Taus. Timan Taus there expressing his disappointment in Ryan Cheki. I did warn you guys. JY18 say sorry 815 is back. Says hi. Gonzalez, hi Gonzalez, how are you doing, my brother, my people? As few as we are on the podcast, please like the podcast, but also consider subscribing to the channel for those of you that are new here. Gonzalez, your team Barcelona is losing. But I mean, the game is far from over. They still have a long way to go. And I think Barcelona will come back into the game. But anyways, I mean, you mentioned Ryan Cheki. I did warn you guys when we were doing the preview for that game. While my prediction was a 2-2 draw for the two sides, I did insist that my expectation was that Pep Guardiola was going to tinker with his starting 11, and he was going to try and do certain things. And indeed, when you look at that starting 11, it had brought Erling Haaland, it had Ryan Cheki in the 10, it had Omar Mamouche and Oscar Bob, Nico Gonzalez and Tijan Riendas. Those ones had started in the 4-0 victory against Wolverhampton Wanderers. John Stones, Ruben Diaz, Ryan Atnori. This one went off through an injury. Rico Ruiz and James Trafford were maintained. Now, Bernardo Silva was put to the bench. Jeremy Doku didn't start. So I did warn you guys that Pep Guardiola was bound to tinker with his team. And we can see that the way they did, how effective they were against Wolverhampton Wanderers is not the same way they were effective. Of course, it was miles of a different opponent, but that notwithstanding, you could see that the chemistry wasn't really that much there, the way we had seen it on the opening weekend. So, but unfortunately, Ryan Atnori went off through an injury. So I did warn you guys, I must say. Why did Pep change the winning team? I do not know. It's just Pep Guardiola. Sometimes he gets to overthink the game. While I did expect some changes, or at least one change, I did not expect all those, changes. Omitting Jeremy Doku, Bernardo Silva, and then bringing in Ryan Atnori, and then Omar Mamouche. Not that they are bad players, and then, but it felt a little one too many changes. Phil Foden came on, had no impact at all whatsoever. They just did not have a good day in office, and yet they were at home. But anyways, there's no team that has beaten up against Pep Guardiola ever since he came to the Premier League than Spurs have. And so, for me, that was in part expected in hindsight. But I thought, given their winning start to the Premier League last weekend, it was going to be motivation enough for them to at least take a draw out of that game. That was my bare minimum of an expectation, but it did not happen. So it's quite unfortunate, but it is what it is. I must acknowledge. Also, Ebere Eze unveiled. Fans were really happy. He was really happy. Of course, he doesn't get to feature in this game, but he will kick off training. I think they will return to training on Monday and then prepare for that trip away to Anfield. So my expectation is that he gets to play at Anfield. Now, I mean, if today is anything, before we even get into what happened on the pitch, before we even get to the result itself, but just to pick out, Arsenal got two serious injuries today. And I'm not saying serious injuries because the players are going to be ruled out for ages, but I'm saying to two significant players. You had Martin Odegaard go off with a shoulder injury. You had Bukayo Saka go off with what appeared to be a hamstring injury to his left. Now, last season, Arsenal were affected by so many injuries, and yet their squad was too narrow. Now, given that they brought in 7 players, I've seen a good number of Arsenal fans arguing that we now must focus on sales or moving on players because our squad is too broad. And I saw one of the Arsenal, reporters that I do really, really appreciate, Charles Watts, making sort of a similar argument, saying that at the end of the day, when you have one too many players that are not happy in the squad because they're not getting the minutes, it is not good for a team. And it is a very good argument to make. But if anything, what happened today does disqualify that argument, because let's review Arsenal's injuries so far. You kickstart the season without Gabriel Jesus, who is out through injury. Kai Havertz suffers any injury. That prognosis is yet to be determined, and how far he could be out. We did see him on the bench. Then you come into your first game at home and you lose the captain, Martin Odegaard, and you lose arguably one of your most effective and significant players in Bukayo Saka to injury. Now, already we are talking about 4 players who, if they are really fully fit, could start in this Arsenal side. Captain Martin Odegaard, Bukayo Saka, without question, Kai Havertz, and Gabriel Jesus are injured in the first 2 games of the season, really. So, if there's anything that justifies having a bigger squad, today should be that case. Today should be that, because it does not come more unfortunate than it does look today. Because now, look at how Arsenal are. Of course, they're very unfortunate that these injuries are coming very early on in the season, but they're not unique to Arsenal. We know for a fact that at Liverpool, Jeremy Frimpong is out injured with I think is it a hamstring, and is ruled out for the foreseeable future, at least until after the September international break. So these things do happen. And now that I'm sure Arsenal will go into the game against Liverpool, hoping that maybe they get one of those 2 players back. But they won't be too worried, because they know in number 10, they do have Ebere Eze has come in. So Noni Madueke can go and play off the right wing, and we will speak about Noni Madueke, how good he looked once Bukayo Saka was withdrawn and Leandro Trossard came on. So Leandro Trossard went to the left wing and Noni Madueke went to the right wing. So you have that bit of cover. You also have Ethan Nwaneri. Of course, that one was there last season. But predominantly, we're looking at Ebere Eze and Noni Madueke, to replace as possible replacements for those injuries. I mean, that's what you have when you have a good squad. That's what you get when you have a good squad. So it's a little unfortunate that Arsenal had to concede those injuries early, very, very early in the season. But I'm sure Mikel Arteta won't be one to worry, especially if they're not long-term injuries, because he knows he now has the cover. How soon those players can get their chemistry together remains to be seen. But at least he's not worried that, I'm going to be missing 3 or 4 of my senior players ahead of a very, very big trip to Anfield. He won't feel that, really. So in regards to what happened in the game, Viktor Gyokeres got off the mark, scored a brace. Jurrien Timber did shine, scoring the brace in the game. Arsenal capitalizing once again on set pieces to score 2 goals. Viktor Gyokeres scored the typical Gyokeres goal, and then you had who was the other goal scorer? Very, very funny that his name does elude me quite that quickly. Bukayo Saka, yes, Bukayo Saka was the other goal scorer. And Arsenal finished by 2-0 at halftime. By the time we went into halftime, they took into halftime a 2-0 lead, which I thought in part looked like it was a long time coming. While they dominated possession, they had not really threatened that much. They had failed to create some clear-cut chances. They had one chance that fell to Viktor Gyokeres at some point when on the counter press, but I think he was surprised by that ball that he blazed it wide of the mark. I wouldn't use the word blaze, because that means it was a thunderbolt of a shot, but it wasn't. But he flicks that ball instead of flicking it just to the near or empty net. It goes wide, and I think that was the unfortunate thing. But Arsenal got off the mark through Jurrien Timber in a set piece play. Again, beautiful header in the 34th minute. Declan Rice bringing in the corner kick, and he scores and to give Arsenal a 1-0 lead, and then shot into the 46 minutes or 55th the plus 1 minute, before halftime, Bukayo Saka, Jurrien Timber providing the assist in this one. I mean, he scored 2 goals and provided an assist in this game. You do not. For me, he was my man of the match. Really, he was my man of the match. So Bukayo Saka getting off the mark. I thought, by the way, in that moment that he was going to, try and pass the ball to Viktor Gyokeres, but he went for his signature left shot, and the ball was just slightly above the shoulder height of the goalkeeper and went into the back of the net. So Arsenal took that lead into the 2-0 lead into halftime. I thought Leeds United had competed well in the opening 30 minutes. They had done well to fend off Arsenal's attack, constant attacks and things like that. Viktor Gyokeres was largely kept quiet. In the first half, he barely had a sniff really at goal. But in the second half, 3 minutes into the second half, Ricardo Carafiori plays him that ball, long pass to find him in the channel, left wing, that's into, the inside and strikes that ball to the near post, which I thought the Leeds goalkeeper should have done a little better to try and save that. But scored a brilliant goal, a signature Viktor Gyokeres goal, and he's off the mark with the goal. And then Max Dorman was later brought in, but that was around the 48th minute. And then Jurrien Timber, again, it's just another set piece that was brought in, I think, by Declan Rice, but the ball is fumbled within the area. Ricardo Carafiori has a tap on it. It ends up in the path of Jurrien Timber, who manages to, kick it into the back of the net. I say kick it intentionally because that's what it felt in that moment. Although I thought from first instance that maybe there had been a bit of a handball situation in that moment in the lead up to the goal, but it turned out not to be. That was involving a Leeds defender and William Saliba, so it turned out not to be the case. So, and it was 4-0. So Ricardo Carafiori providing a second assist on the day. I thought he had a very, very beautiful game, by the way. And then Max Dorman, who, by the way, in my opinion, I felt Leeds were hard done by when that penalty was given for the foul against Max Dorman, because while I feel there's a nudge on him, in the process of him going down, it felt more like a dive. Really, it felt more like a dive because when you look at the defender's foot, he does not step on his foot, but as he's falling, he gets his other foot to crash into the defender's second leg behind the defender's second leg in that sort of format. So for me, it felt like a dive, but he looked really, really sharp when he came on, and yeah, he looked sharp, he looked brilliant. He did threaten to unsettle that Leeds United. I think, was it Goodmanson who was down that flank, the right side to try and defend Max Dorman, and yeah, it ended. Wow, just observing a moment here. Barcelona just a whisker away from an equalizer. So Declan Rice as captain, was he the captain at the time? I'm not sure. He did pick up the ball, handed it to Viktor Gyokeres, and he slotted that ball in the bottom corner beyond the reach of the goalkeeper, and Arsenal close to a 5-0 victory on the day. Noni Madueke, I thought, was oftentimes quiet, especially in the opening 50 minutes of the game or so. But what I observed, it did help Arsenal, help them avoid the over-reliance on the right wing. So they tried to get Noni Madueke on the ball, but he wasn't very, very effective until Bukayo Saka goes off and then he's pushed to the right wing, and then Trossard comes to the left wing. That's when I thought he did have those flashes of brilliance, and he was taking on players really. He looked sharp in those few minutes that he played at the right wing. Then of course he was withdrawn. Max Dorman came on. Ethan Nwaneri had already replaced Martin Odegaard in the first half. I thought when he had just come on, he looked a bit sloppy. He wasn't pressing enough, but he had a very, very brilliant second half. Ethan Nwaneri. Then Christian Mosquera was also given a couple of minutes, replacing Jurrien Timber. Maz Lewis Kelly came on for Ricardo Carafiori. Again, Maz Lewis Kelly looked good, although he tends to want to bust the ball in terms of the ball overall ball protection. Sometimes I feel he overdoes it, and it could cost him if he does lose a ball in dangerous situation and the referee doesn't call for a foul and things like that. So he may need to adjust that going forward. I mean, those are some of the things I did observe in the game, but it was a very, very beautiful game for the Arsenal to close to the second victory of match day 2, and I think they do lead the table with 6 points, 6 goals scored and none conceded, similar to Tottenham Hotspur's 5 goals scored, none conceded so far. Both have kept clean sheets. Chelsea are in 4th place. Liverpool are waiting to play on Monday night against Newcastle. We will be discussing that game. Then Manchester United are in action tomorrow against Fulham. Crystal Palace in action tomorrow. Then quickly, Celta Vigo and Mallorca, they shared disposed in a 1-1 draw, while in the German Bundesliga, Eric Ten Hag lost his first game as Bayer Leverkusen manager at home, losing to Hoffenheim by 2-1. Eintracht Frankfurt did beat up against Werder Bremen by 4-1, while Heidenheim lost to Wolfsburg by 4-1. Augsburg beat up against Freiburg by 3-1, while Union Berlin beat up against Stuttgart by 2-1. St. Pauli and Borussia Dortmund shared the spoils in a 3-3 draw there in the 6-goal thriller for them. In the Italian Serie A, Genoa and Lecce were involved in a goalless draw. Napoli beat up against Sassuolo by 2-0 in their opening fixture to try and defend the Scudetto. Scott McTominay off the mark once again, scoring a goal in the 17th minute, while KDB also is off the mark. He did score that goal in this 57th minute. Then those are some of the very results that we cannot overlook. Then AC Milan are in action against Cremonese, and AC Milan are down by 2-1 in the 76th minute, while AC Roma are leading Bologna by 1-0. So anyways, those are some of the updates coming through from those respective leagues. But yeah, it's been a beautiful Saturday of football. Otherwise, allow me to wrap it here and also get to enjoy more football. And I'll see you guys next time. Stay blessed for now. Bye-bye.